In this video, I want to explore the tool of what I'll call passionate depth, or passionate honesty and complexity. And I want to explore the way that at times, and with the right people, how this can dramatically deepen the relationship and restore the love. So, first of all, what are some of the symptoms in a relationship that might lead to feeling like this is necessary? And like everything that I talk about and do, it's all from direct observation of other people and or my personal relationships. And so, for example, this week, my partner, I have seen her sounding a little bit bored and a little bit lazy in the relationship. And so I have a strong reaction to that because I feel abandoned by boredom and laziness when I'm showing up in a big way and I've chosen to need this person emotionally. And so, it's the most important relationship to me, and I want to make sure that she can and is still choosing to show up. So I detect boredom and laziness and apathy in tone of voice is a really great thing. Like, I'm not really sure what I want to do. So, boredom, apathy, the action pattern, the level of proactivity, the level of responsiveness, the level of excitement and joy to be together. Now, I want to talk about why these are the cues. So the first thing is that when someone believes and is choosing to invest in a future with you, it is incredibly exciting. It's beautiful. When someone believes in you and the future together, there's nothing so exciting and magical. When you believe, you want to act, you want to invest, you want to show up. Boredom is the state we feel when we do not show up fully. If we're showing up fully, we're not bored. If we're not giving of ourselves, we're bored. And there's only one state particularly when there's a good opportunity, when it's not choosing to give yourself to a mediocre possibility that you don't want anyways is understandable. But when you want that possibility, and that's a great possibility, and it's an amazing opportunity, and you find yourself bored, there's only one reason. It's because you're not giving yourself, and the only reason not to do it is because you don't believe, A, it's going to last, B, you're good enough, 3, you're going to succeed. It's the only reason to be bored. It's the only reason not to give. Now, the reason you're not giving 100% if you expect to fail in some way is because it hurts. It hurts to give everything and fail. It hurts so much. So boredom, apathy, a lack of investment, what they're really saying is, I believe I'm going to fail, and so I'm not going to give myself. Which is also saying, I'm not going to do what it takes to succeed, and so it will fail. So the reason I'm so sensitive to it is in many relationships, it's delicate. The relationship could fail in a week, could fail in a month. What's a failure? You stop growing, You stop learning. The energy goes from, rising up and peak and plateaus, or it just comes way down. You stop telling the full truth. That's a failure. You've got nothing there. You've got no energy. You've got no momentum. You've got no value. You've got no growth. At most, you become placeholders to protect one another from the terror and the fear and the discomfort of what am I going to do next if I own that this is really over. So in this situation where if someone believes it's going to fail, it will, because they're not going to give what it takes to show up, it's critical to go right at the issue. And so I want to talk a little bit about how to do that in oneself and with another. So in this case, when I noticed the boredom was in the tone for, in the first 20 minutes, and I had a mild reaction, I said, "You're bored. What's that about? You've got so much to do, so much to grow. You're preparing someone, like, why are you bored?" And why I say it somewhat depends on the person is, she said, "Yeah, you're right, I'm bored, and I'm feeling lazy, and I'm sorry." And I said, I'm really upset about that, because if you don't show up, you absolutely have lost. I am not going to give my all at this growing stage of the relationship and have you bail on me. So, it's over in a week if you want to stay bored and lazy in this. So it's just coming in. It's surprising me. I'm noticing it the last 20 minutes. What's going on? And so that prompts the honesty. You can't be bored in that type of terrain. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is, if you're really terrified of failure, and that terror is creating, protection and withholding because of the hurt of really giving and failing, and you're expecting that failure, if the fear is really too big, then the relationship needs to end. If the attraction is not big enough to get through the fear, the relationship needs to end. It's that simple, because it can't grow. You've got this continual gravitational force in any relationship, which is of fear, shame, hiding, wanting to pull back. And the attraction is going against that gravitational pull. And if the attraction and love and courage is not strong enough to go over it, it's doomed. So it's important to bring it up and get a reality test. I want to know kind of right then, is she willing to give up? Or is she willing to show up? Because one or the other has to happen. Because if she doesn't show up, she's going to lose the relationship. Even if she lies and all that, she's going to stop growing. If she's bored for a continued point, even if I don't end it, why wouldn't she at some point? Some part of us, when we're in a stagnant relationship, will pick a fight unconsciously to distance that person, because it's not healthy. We need to be growing. So bring it up. To look at it, what's going on. 3, so in her case, in this case, she had something she wanted to tell me, but she was afraid if she told me I wouldn't like it and I'd be disappointed, and she's got a big fear of disappointment. She's been shamed a lot by her mother. One of her biggest dreads is feeling like a disappointment. And so that's her big terror. It's like, is she going to put in all this love and all this energy and all that, and it's not going to be good enough? And that's a real risk. I'm picky. I'm demanding. I have high ideals. It's almost certain that disappointment is going to be one of my messages within this context. So, given who I am, that's a really real and intelligent fear. And so the question is all the good stuff that's happening in the relationship and all the growth that's happening and the desire for that, is the desire for that big enough to overcome that disappointment or that fear of the disappointment? Because it's also a little bit ironic, when someone's giving their all, I can feel it. And I am never disappointed in someone who's giving their all. But I expect and look for people to give a lot more than the typical person does give in terms of their all. So I feel disappointed when I'm let down in that, when I'm not met in that. So this is a way where this conversation, and so I was quite unnerved by going on this, and we're talking about we're talking about marriage, and so we've got a fiancé visa process. She's abroad. And so we've got a fiancé visa process in work, and that's an expensive process. And I'm really clear. I'm not going to pay that money for someone who's bored. They've got to really show up. And so what these kind of conversations can lead to is they can get to the core of the smallest part in oneself. So they bring the honesty forward. To be loved, to be conscious, to become conscious. Like, oh yeah, there's that really small fear. I'm not sure if I'm good enough. I'm not sure I'm going to make it. There's all these different voices going on in my head that's saying I'm not enough, and I don't want to fully talk about it all because I'm sure it's not enough. And yet, the irony is when you talk about that, it becomes enough. And so, the same thing in reverse, and I want to kind of talk about how to flip it around. The same thing kind of came up a few days later for me. And so here's how to talk about that in a little bit more depth and directness. So what I noticed for me, and what I've kind of learned is I carry a lot of emotional pain in my body. It's kind of complex PTSD related from childhood. And some part of me, my whole life, is maybe 40% of my energy is just pain management. It's like I've got to grow, I've got to do this, I want to do therapy, I want to achieve these goals. I just want some place to put my attention that's positive to divert my attention to this kind of chronic baseline of pain. And so just talking about some of these things can bring candor, can bring honesty, can bring realness and intimacy. I love the kind of definition of intimacy, into me you see. So, I look at that pattern of pain management, and I know that one of the things that I do is I do one really big thing, then I take a rest, and then I do another really big thing. And what I'm playing with is my brain's hedonic adaptation principle, where anything new is going to have 3 times the potency of stimulation, distraction stimulation, than something that's been peaceful and around for a number of months, anything new is going to have 3 times the potency in my brain. So it's great medicine in my survival strategy of create something new and exciting and positive to overshadow that kind of baseline of pain that's always in the background. And so I've turned this into a life-defining pattern where I'll pick goals that I can do in less than 3 months. I'll throw myself into them. I'll fully accomplish them. I'll do a great job because I'm desperate to go into that goal because I want to escape pain. I want to feel great on the other side. I want to get something done and I want to feel safe. And so I've got these strong drives that are pushing me in. And a relationship often falls into that category where I really want to succeed and grow and do everything we can with this person. And the point where it starts to cool down and plateau is the point where the underlying pain that I've been distracting from is coming up and saying, okay, pain's on the way, you got to do something new. And if that relationship is absorbing me, meaning I'm spending 60 to 80% of my energy in that relationship, the only way that I can do something new is to pull out of the relationship and then, whatever it is, the newness of being completely single after that relationship, the newness of trying something completely out, of writing a new book, of going to a new country. It doesn't matter what the newness is. This responds to pain. And so knowing that, I'm starting to get restless, and I'm worried on 2 fronts because I'm kind of coming to the end of my hedonic, the hedonic adaptation principle is that the longer you do the same thing, whatever it is, no matter how much pleasure it is, the less you feel it. And you kind of see that with a chocolate cake. You eat the first bite of a chocolate cake on an empty stomach and it may be heavenly. You eat the whole piece and it's satisfying. You eat the second piece, maybe starting to feel a little bit full. You eat the third piece, you're feeling sick. Fourth piece tastes like cardboard and crap, because you've already adjusted you've gotten all the new stuff and it's just gotten over, and it's the same thing with the drug. You take the first hit of cocaine, the first thing, and it goes up, and then the second hit isn't as much, and then and eventually you use a ton more just to feel barely get out of bed, and so there's an aspect of sexuality and relationship that is on that hedonic adaptation principle, where something new, something exciting, something mysterious, something unknown is great, and it gets great and great and great, and then you have everything you saturate that, and the brain slowly ratchets it down and keeps looking around for something new, something threatening to look out for. It's kind of, okay, we've got that. Now we've got to scan the horizon again. So that's the principle. And so the principle supports new relationships forming, but at least in my case, they've got to form strong, deep, and be growing to move through the window of time where the hedonic adaptation principle takes it down, where it's no longer providing a fix. It's got to be really good by that point, or it's not going to stay. And I know that, and so I'm kind of looking at what's going on and reminding myself, what are the patterns, and I start to talk with her about my fear of abandoning her, my fear of the fact that if she stops growing and starts to become bored, there's just going to be no way for me to stay out of this pain depth, I would call it, like, because as the pleasure goes down, the pain goes up. So there's going to be no way for me to be the person I want to be within that high of a pain threshold without, I'm going to start getting desperate for something, and I don't want to abandon her. And just talking about that, that there's a real risk of that I'm scared, that there's a lonely part in me that, as I leave a relationship to pursue a new adrenaline rush that can get me over that pain threshold, that, I'm really sad about the quality of love that's being left behind. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to lose that again. And there's a part of me that definitely doesn't want to leave her, particularly because I know that there's parts of the relationship that are really, really good for her that she doesn't know how to replace with another man. So I can, and I understand that she's talked about it, and I agree, that those things would be hard to replace, particularly because she hates rejection. She could find it if she went through, had about 500 conversations online, just like I could find the quality that I have with her if I have about 200 conversations online in her country. That's kind of the ratio of that country for the quality and context that I'm looking for. So I'd have to talk with 200 women in order to find this again. She'd probably have to talk to, well, she could luck out. I don't know her statistics as clearly, but it's miserable for her to get rejected even 10 times, and she's got very low odds of getting this in that window. So there's a real sense of desperation because of the rarity and the quality, and I understand it, and I don't want to let her down. And just talking about this candidly, and I think this is one of the most important things. Like, I've never been a physical addict. Like, I'm not addicted to drugs, cocaine, food. I don't do drugs. I don't get drunk. But I am addicted to pain management in a variety of ways. Power plays of spending money the way I want to, or learning absorption, or deep therapies, and I try and funnel it in a good direction, but I also have to own that I'm a 30% addict, meaning 30% of what I do is somewhat compulsive, or if it doesn't have the compulsive vibe, it's because I know the pattern enough to give myself high doses of positive stimulation on a regular basis with something new. And just having these kind of conversations, they eliminate boredom, they create love, they create real intimacy, and they restore. It's a little bit of a catch-22. In other words, I'm making this video because I've had 5 or 6 hours of these kinds of conversations this week with my partner, and what it's done is it's taken the relationship out of the plateau period back into something new, because these are new conversations. I haven't had these conversations with anyone. I haven't been in this situation. And so it's become, So for both of us, it's taken us out of boredom into gratitude, out of apathy and into passion and into movement. Some of that movement being these videos. Out of despair and giving up on either of our sides to warmth and feeling like someone's there with us in this terrain. And this is the beauty of partnership and relationship that nothing else can replace. Nothing can do this in the way one human being choosing to be honest, choosing to be courageous, choosing to be present, choosing to show up fully. There is nothing like it. And to have a friend be with you on that journey is what I wish for you with all my heart, because there's nothing so healing. Good luck.